I'm a baby boomer. I'm one of the first ones after the World War II. And then we stayed in Montgomery, Alabama for about 10 years, and my parents divorced. And then we moved up here, my mother, for about 2 years. And then I decided to go back to Montgomery just to visit my grandmother when I was about 12, 13. And I just stayed down there. And next thing you know, I was 19 years old and joined the Marine Corps. So they asked for volunteers to go to Vietnam, and about almost half or more raised their right hand, and I did too. I wasn't really gung-ho or anything, but I just felt like it was my patriotic duty to go. That's what Marines do, they go to war, so let's go. So, and I didn't get a chance to fly as a door gunner for a few months until early '67, January '67. So basically I was just a mechanic, just working on helicopters, doing the grease gun, greasing all the rotor heads and changing tires, patching up bullet holes. So when I started flying door gunner, they let you shoot the M60 machine gun just to kind of practice. You know, it shoots about 600, 700 rounds a minute. Every fifth round's a red tracer. So the first time we landed in a hot zone, you got a headphone on, helmet, and then you got the M60, and my crew chiefs over here got an M60 on the other side. That's how helicopters typically have M60s on both sides. So we got in this hot zone, picking up a couple of wounded guys, dropping off some water and some food, sea rations. So as we were starting to lift off, I've got my machine gun, and typically I'm like this, and you're looking out, and we lifted up about tree level, and then took off. The other crew chief over there, he's doing the same thing. And we went probably maybe 2 football fields or more. A full automatic machine gun from the enemy. And I didn't know which way it was coming. It wasn't coming mine, but you never know. By that time, the crew chief said fire, so he's shooting his machine gun because it came from his side. And what they did, the machine gun fire hit the top of the helicopter and also in the shell too, but didn't hit any of us, but he caught the helicopter transmission on fire. And it started igniting, and the fluid was coming in through the helicopter. So quickly, the corpsman was trying to move the stretcher patient. I reached over to kind of move him as well. In the meantime, the pilot's now saying we're going to crash because we're losing power. I said, oh boy. So I get over to the door, and just as we hit, I rolled out the door into the rice paddy. So I turned back around, look at the helicopter, and it's still burning, and I look and there's an arm reaching in around the door, still moving. It's that black Marine on the stretcher. And I'm just instinctively, I just ran over to him. I didn't think another second. I just ran over to him. I dropped my machine gun right there. I ran over to him and started reaching in and pulling him around the corner to get him out the door. And he's on that stretcher, so finally pulling. The fire on the helicopter is on. I got my helmet on. I got, my sleeves were up, and I started getting singed and burned on my arms. And then the crew chief finally came over too, and between the two of us, we pulled him around the corner and got him on the ground. And by that time, 2 of the helicopter pilots rolled over too, so everybody grabbed an arm and a leg, hauled it butt across the rice paddy, and then we put him down, and another helicopter came in, loaded him up, and the other Marine too, so those 2 took off to the hospital. You know, I've been terrified. Here I was, almost got killed, and I just got burnt. I got a piece of something hit my head, and I had a little blood coming down, so I didn't know how bad I was, but I was alive, so that was a good thing. Yeah. And then after that, I was thinking, I am invincible now. I thought, man, I am not invincible. You can get shot down, you can get killed. So I've had a new sense of what it meant to be alive. And I found out through Senator Warner, 40 years later, that Marine we got out of the helicopter, his name was Melvin Lee Allen, and he died on the operating table. And he's from Chicago. He was drafted, had 2 young babies. So I moved here in December '75, but I still felt out of kilter with like a lot of Vietnam vets, because I've been reading a lot about what's going on. And I tried to convince myself I didn't have PTSD. In 1986, I knew I had issues, but I didn't know what it was called. Back then they called it Vietnam syndrome, meaning you're kind of not fitting in, you're angry, you're mad, and you just sort of, I mean, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I did have a few beers here and there or anything, so anyway, I started going to counseling in 1986. I was able to deal with a lot of issues that I suppressed. Like one counselor said, a lot of you Vietnam vets have this big garbage bag behind you, and you're just dragging that thing around with you all the time. And you got this traumas back here that you need to deal with, whatever it is. And having flown a lot of combat missions and picked up over 100 dead Marines and hundreds of wounded Marines and blood, and it took a toll.